Let's examine how potential new immigration policies could impact your personal finances. Economist Mark Zandi has expressed concerns about potential economic challenges ahead.
Zandi's primary worry centers around the potential for increased inflation stemming from these possible new immigration policies, such as tariffs and increased deportations.
Can you break that down for me? How would these policies affect something like my weekly grocery bill?
Restricting immigration shrinks the available workforce. Businesses then find themselves vying for a smaller pool of workers.
So basic supply and demand.
Precisely. And to entice employees, companies would have to raise wages. Those increased labor costs inevitably get passed on to consumers, resulting in price hikes across the board. You would see this reflected in higher prices for groceries, rent, childcare, elder care, and other essential services.
It seems like housing costs are already a major pain point for a lot of people. How would these potential policies further impact the housing market?
Construction, a sector heavily reliant on immigrant labor, would be particularly hard hit. Fewer immigrant workers translate to fewer new homes being built. This exacerbates the existing housing shortage, pushing both rental and home prices even higher.
I've heard whispers of businesses stockpiling inventory due to fears of potential tariff hikes. Is there any data to support this?
While there's anecdotal evidence suggesting this might be happening, it's not yet reflected in the available data. It's certainly possible this trend will become more apparent as new data emerges in the coming months.
Shifting gears a bit, let's discuss the national debt. Considering the increasing deficits, what are our options for addressing Social Security?
We face some tough choices. One path is to strive for faster economic growth, but that becomes difficult with these new policies looming.
I can see how that would create a challenging environment.
Another option is raising taxes, a move that's rarely popular with voters.
Understandably so.
And then there's the final option of cutting spending, which presents its own hurdles as a significant portion of the budget is allocated to entitlement programs such as Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
So no easy solutions there.
Yeah.
Given this intricate economic picture, how do you anticipate the Federal Reserve will respond?
The Federal Reserve finds itself in a precarious position, forced to choose between prioritizing the fight against inflation or providing support for an economy potentially weakened by these policies.
And what do you think will be the likely course of action for the Fed?
It's a tricky situation, as these new policies could potentially fuel inflation while simultaneously hindering economic growth. My prediction is that the Federal Reserve will likely maintain its current course for a significant portion of the next year. They've already implemented substantial rate cuts, and the current federal funds rate hovers near equilibrium, neither stimulating nor impeding economic activity.
A lot to consider as we move forward.
Indeed. I anticipate they'll proceed cautiously, avoiding any drastic measures until the situation becomes clearer.
Let's circle back to those businesses stockpiling inventory ahead of potential tariffs. That buying frenzy could really skew the market.
Absolutely. Imagine a scenario where businesses are rushing to import goods before those tariffs hit.
Panic buying on a massive scale.
Exactly. This surge in demand would artificially inflate prices in the short term.
So what happens when the tariffs are actually implemented?
Well, once those tariffs are in place, the cost of imported goods inevitably rises. Businesses would then face a tough choice. Either pass those increased costs on to consumers through higher prices or absorb the hit to their own profit margins.
How do you see these proposed policies impacting specific sectors like construction, which, as we discussed, heavily rely on immigrant labor?
Restricting immigration would create a shortage of construction workers, leading to a slowdown in the construction of new homes.
Further compounding that housing crisis we talked about.
Precisely. It's a chain reaction, ultimately pushing housing prices up even further.
It sounds like this could set off a ripple effect across the entire economy.
You're absolutely right. Higher housing costs put a strain on household budgets, potentially leading to reduced consumer spending in other areas. This could negatively impact businesses and ultimately slow down overall economic growth.
And all of this brings us back to that looming threat of increased inflation.
A tight labor market combined with those tariff-driven increases in the cost of imported goods creates a perfect storm for rising inflation.
Eroding everyone's purchasing power.
Exactly. Inflation essentially makes it more expensive for people to afford those everyday necessities.
So this puts the Federal Reserve in a really difficult position.
Without a doubt. They're tasked with maintaining price stability while simultaneously fostering economic growth. This situation poses a real challenge because the policies under consideration could simultaneously drive up inflation and stifle growth.
A tightrope walk for sure. The Federal Reserve's response will have a profound impact on the economy. Hiking interest rates to combat inflation could further impede economic growth, but keeping rates low risks exacerbating inflation. It's a delicate balancing act.
They'll need to weigh the consequences of each action very carefully. Their decisions influence borrowing costs costs for both individuals and businesses. They impact investment decisions. Ultimately, the Federal Reserve's actions shape the economic landscape for the foreseeable future.
It's a lot to digest.
The potential economic ramifications of these proposed policies are extensive and interconnected. It's crucial to carefully consider all aspects and potential outcomes before making any decisions.
It seems like we're navigating a minefield of complex economic issues with no easy solutions.
You hit the nail on the head. The potential consequences of these policies are so far-reaching and intertwined, it's crucial to consider all angles and potential outcomes before any decisions are made.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful discussion. We've really delved into the complex relationship between immigration policy and the economy. The potential for those ripple effects across various sectors like labor markets and housing, and even impacting the Federal Reserve's actions, is pretty striking.
And remember, these policies have the potential to hit very close to home, impacting the prices you pay at the grocery store, the availability of housing, even your ability to find affordable childcare.
Thank you so much for joining us today and providing such a clear and insightful analysis of these complex issues. Until next time, goodbye.